Welcome back. Now my piece of EN8 has come. It's a 40 by 40 by 1 meter, 40 by 40 millimeters, 1 meter length of EN8. It's got some kind of coating on it. Not sure what it is. If you touch it, it almost feels like rust, but it doesn't look like rust. Now, for this, as I indicated in the previous video, that I've bought this EN8 to do my quick change tool post holders. So I'm going to start on this project. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to my friend Jack, who was kind enough to send me an assortment of inserts. And I'm especially excited about this grooving inserts. And 16ER threading inserts, and a WNMG insert, a couple of SNMG inserts as well. And then these inserts, I'm not exactly sure what the tool holders looks like, but I think the idea behind these inserts is to make a brazed carbide tooling. And then got these little guys here that will be perfect for making indexable end molds or face molds. As you can see, it's got looks like a 85-degree angle here, so it will be perfect. Alright, thank you, Jack. These things are gonna have a hard time in my shop, but it's quite looks like good quality inserts. This looks like Iscar, and I know Iscar lasts quite a long while in my shop. Alright, let's start on the project. I've got 7 blanks because I need 7 tool holders at the current moment, and the leftover stock can cater for another 8. So it gives you a total of 15 tool holders for a meter length of bar stock. Now, if you're wondering now, why would you make these tool holders if you can buy it for $150 for argument's sake, which I found was the cheapest tool holder on the market. Now, if you do the maths, this stock, including the grub screws, cost around $600, and 4 of these tool holders would have cost $150, excluding import tariffs. So yeah, it makes sense to make these things by yourself because it's a lot cheaper. Now, if I have to make 15 of these tool holders in total, and I add the grub screws and everything together, it might cost me about $700, which I think is way cheaper than to import 15 tool holders at $150 each. So I hope that makes sense. And another thing that I'd like about this specific steel is on a bandsaw, it almost cuts like cast iron. It leaves a very fine crumb, and you don't need to lubricate it. It goes through like without any problems. The bandsaws cut the pieces very, very close to square, so I'm happy with that. I've set my trimming on it before I cut these pieces, and on my first test piece it came out very close to square, so I'm happy with that. I've got my stock set up in the forge jaw here, and I'm only gonna do light cleanup passes. Only the side that's gonna register against the tool post will I clean up until closer to the edge, because I want to keep on the other end the rounded edges, because that's it will just give it a different finish from my normal square cut tool holders. And I also want to especially on the tool holders that will hold the boring bars, that's going to get a hole through, I need to keep it as thick as possible. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Okay, my target is 62 millimeters length. I've got a little bit of a mark still, or cutting mark from the bandsaw still here, but that doesn't matter. Get some focus here. I would say that's fairly close. Camera's not cooperating here. Now on the squares, it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit oversized. I've got a lot of room for maneuver there, but I made them more or less 38.5. So that is good enough. Now the surface finish, it was quite a mission to get a decent finish on it. I've tried different tools and different speeds and different angles on the tools until I eventually got it right. Here's a side-by-side comparison of surface finishes from where I've started until where I've ended up. Let's get another block. There's another example of a block when I started off this project. I didn't show it on camera, but I was experimenting with different tools and cutters and angles and everything and speeds. So yeah, this was a rubbish finish, but doesn't really matter because these tools see a lot of airtime, flies off the machine. If it vibrates, it falls off. Sometimes I just drop it. A lot of abuse on these little things. If you look at this angle here, it's even worse. As you can see, it's even if you've been doing this for a long time, doesn't mean that you're going to get it right the first time. So yeah, mates, I'm running this machine at 1380 RPM and 0.01 millimeters per revolution. And I've got my cutter set the angle lead in at I think it was 40 or 40 no sorry 55 degrees lead in on the cutting tool, and that made all the difference. When I was facing off the first end of it, as you put your stock in here into the jaws, I made sure that the back wasn't touching on the uneven side. So it was basically floating in air. So anything that was registering was the jaws, and in that way you can keep it perfectly square. Let me go get my square and I'll show you. Now lathe is a very quick machine to use to get your stock square. As you can see here, my corners are perfectly square. So yeah, I'm very happy with the outcome. Right, I need to mill out the pocket here, 32 by 8 millimeters deep. That will be for the dovetail. I'm really enjoying this roughing animal. When I was plunging, I took 2mm depth of cut on each pass. It was 4 passes down to 8mm. And on the right hand side, I was doing 1mm passes, depth of cut at full depth. And when I came to this side, I decided to bump it up to 1.25mm per pass, and it was handling it very well. Now, if you've got a small milling machine, I would definitely recommend using roughing end mills because the load on your machine is reduced considerably. Okay, I've roughed out the dovetail here. Now, what I did was I lifted my cutter around 0.1mm above the bottom plane here when I was roughing it out, because when you do the roughing cuts, the cutter would want to deflect down and then cut into your base or your bottom here. Now that leaves you with a problem because if the cutter deflects, say you're cutting this side of the dovetail and the cutter tries to deflect towards the opposite end, it's going to pull down and it's going to cut a slight bevel here. If you understand what I mean, if you cut this side, you'll have basically something like this in a very microscopic way, and that's going to mess up your dovetail. It's going to mess with your fits. Now, when you try to fit the dovetail, it will seem like it's cut too small, but meanwhile it's this end that's pushing against the body of your tool post. So now that I've roughed it out, now I can drop the cutter down until it lightly touches the bottom, and then do my final fits on the sides. So I'm going to take more or less 0.1mm cuts to either side until the tool post slides into it. Now, what I've calculated is that there should be 4.65 more or less millimeters that I need to cut in. It's currently cut in at 4mm, 4.5mm, sorry. And that little 0.1mm will become a 0.05mm cuts. Like I say, I'll just keep on working it until the tool post fits in properly. What I also forgot to mention was when I was doing my roughing cuts, I started off with 1mm depth of cut, then 2.75mm depth of cuts, and then followed by 0.5mm. So now my finished passes will be the 0.1. Okay, all my dovetails are cut, and on my tool post it fits very snugly. Look at it, there's very little play. Just enough to get a tool holders in and out. And with my previous holders, the one was when I made them in the beginning, when I made the tool post, I was still a novice on the machine, still needed some practice, and I didn't have a DRO. And some of the holders had a lot of slop in it. This is probably the worst of the lot. As you can see, I need to shim it every time I use it. So these ones I've taken a lot of care and cut them perfect so that I have the minimum amount of slop, and then especially on the threading tools. Now these 3 years earmarked for boring type or boring bar type of tool holders. That will be for a grooving tool and 2 different size threading tools. 2 of these will be for outside that or OD threading tools. Then the 2 will be for my 2 10mm lathe tools that I've got. So yeah, this is where I'm gonna stop this video for now. This has taken me 2 days already to make these, to cut the dovetails and to square up the stock. So in the next video I'll do all the features, all the holes that needs to be drilled and reamed, and the one will be bored 16mm, and these ones will have different size slots cut into them at different levels. So see you in the next video. Enjoy. Cheers.